Hi, my name's Jackie Gabbert, and this is my case study on internet violations for EDL 850 and Module 6. The first thing we need to know is what I know about Miss Walker. Miss Walker is a beginning teacher at a prestigious school. She has high expectations for her students, but she's also had some issues with student learning and student stress. She has been given techniques to improve her teaching, but for some reason hasn't fully implemented these. And then in the middle of her second year, she was threatened on the internet with a website and an email. What I know about the situation. This school is in an affluent neighborhood with an affluent school. There's high achieving students with high expectations from their parents. Dr. Forbes is the principal, and he is highly respected and has won some awards. And he has tried to support his new teacher, Miss Walker, by discussing teaching techniques and techniques that could possibly minimize the stress that some students are feeling, because he has been contacted by students and parents with some issues about Miss Walker. What do you need to know? I still don't know why didn't Miss Walker implement the suggestions of Dr. Forbes. Was there a reason, or did she just not want to do it? Which student or who, because it could be a parent or somebody else, created the website, and who sent the email, and what was the intent of both the website and the email? Was it just because the student was frustrated, and although that doesn't make it okay, was that the reason, or was it really a credible threat to her safety? Next, I'll identify the problem. A vulgar website was created about Miss Walker by one or more people. She is fearful for her life. She contacted Dr. Forbes, the principal, as soon as she learned of the website. However, she did accuse a student with no proof. She said she thought it might be Randy, but she doesn't have any proof to back that up. The baseline problem could be her teaching tactics are not working. And to go along with that, she has not implemented suggestions from her boss. And although that doesn't make the website or the email okay, there's no reason to respond like that. However, that could be the underlying problem of this. So the plan of action, if I was Dr. Forbes. First, I would meet with Miss Walker first thing Monday morning. Then I would contact the district technologist to start figuring out who created the website and sent the email. The meeting with Miss Walker would be to make sure I got the whole story and to go through the plan of action with her. Then I would contact the district technologist. After that, after I got those two things done, I would start interviewing all students that are in Miss Walker's class. That way, not one student is singled out. And I would start interviewing them, keeping them separate one by one, not allowing them to talk with each other or talk on their cell phones while this process is going on, to try to get down to the basis of who created the website. And then once we know who or which individuals created the website, we can then tackle the email. Once we figured out who or which individuals created the website, I would look at consequences for the student or students responsible. These consequences should be found in the student handbook or the policy handbook. Once those consequences are given, I would create a seminar for all students on appropriate use of technology. There is no reason that a student should have thought that this was okay, and so hopefully we could use this as a learning experience. And then finally, step 6 is I would implement more professional development for Miss Walker because obviously something's not working there. The strategies to implement each step. So step 1 was meeting with Miss Walker first thing Monday morning. I would meet with her on Monday morning to get her full side of the story. This would be everything leading up to it. This would be any minor things in class that maybe should have been reported but weren't, and just to reassure her that I'm on her side. Then I would let her know what my plan of action is and hopefully give her a timeline to get this resolved, and then reiterating that I am there to support her and to try to find a quick and fair end to this issue. Step 2 was contact the district technologist to start figuring out who created the website and sent the email. I would give the URL and the email to the district technologist, both the internet side and the hard copy. I would explain the problem to him and then try to ask him if there's any way that he could figure out who created the website. This would be hard proof instead of just hearsay, and hopefully this would help bring our case to a close. I would also ask him what the timeline would be for how long this would take, so that I can make a plan for consequences and things like that. My step 3 was interview the students one by one about the creation of the website. I would start interviewing students about the website as soon as I could Monday morning. I would keep all students separate at this time. And like I said, I wouldn't just target a few kids. I would make sure I talked to all the students in her class, which I know can be a lot, but I think it would be prudent to make sure that you talk to everyone. I would encourage the students that honesty is the best policy, that we will find out who did this and what happened, why it happened, but that if you're honest, things are going to go a lot easier. And then also explain to them that I will find out who's responsible and there will be consequences, as this is no way to treat another human being. Step 4, consequences for the students responsible. I would consult the handbook for appropriate consequences. Once I have looked that over, I would contact the parents and have a meeting with myself, Miss Walker, the student's parents, if I also needed it, possibly an assistant principal or even the superintendent, just so that we were all on the same page. I would explain the entire situation to everybody, and then I would assign consequences. Step 5 was a seminar for all students on appropriate use of technology. I would create a presentation to give to all students about the appropriate use of technology. However, I think a different twist on this would be to have the students that were responsible for the website and the email help create the presentation, then actually present it to their peers, and showing them that this isn't okay and that they could possibly learn from it, as well as their consequences, and then find a time that we'd be able to present to all high school students. And then the last step was professional development from Miss Walker. I feel like from reading this story that Miss Walker knows her content. She's working on her PhD, so she probably knows a lot about zoology and that type of stuff, but for some reason she isn't getting that across to students. So she may not know actually how to teach. So I would send Miss Walker to a meeting on strategies for better teaching. I would also assign her a mentor and make sure they meet, not just assign her one. These two things would give her the strategies that she could implement, and I would also encourage her to implement them. But then to back that up and make sure she's actually doing it, I would stop by on more observations to see that she is implementing these strategies. If she still refuses, it would be very, I would encourage myself, Dr. Forbes, and the superintendent to look over her contract and look seriously at whether we want to retain her or not. If she's not being effective for student learning, then there's an issue. And then resolving the issue. I will promote the success of all students by treating them fairly and with respect. I will implement fair consequences and show that these types of actions will not be tolerated. The presentation of appropriate technology used to all students would be a way to use this as a learning opportunity. And then I would also get some professional development from Ms. Walker, as well as make sure she implements the professional development into her classes. Since Oops, I think I skipped something. All right. The students need to learn that technology can be misused, and if it is misused, there will be consequences. Consequences should be fairly enforced according to the student handbook, and parents should be notified both of the action and of the consequence and keep them in the loop as to what's going on. Since some students think it's okay to create a website like this one, we will present to all students about appropriate technology use. And then finally, students are not learning from Miss Walker. Whether that's because of personal issues or whatever, they're not learning. Therefore, she needs to implement some new strategies. She can learn these opportunities from professional development. Category 4, what I was thinking, feeling, and valuing as I read this. I personally would value that my principal supports me and treats this issue with care. I would feel attacked personally, and I would feel angry that I was attacked. Then I would, if I was Dr. Forbes, I would feel frustrated that she was asked to improve her techniques but didn't. And I would hope that we could use this as a learning opportunity both for Miss Walker as well as the students. If I was Miss Walker, I think it would be hard to focus on teaching with this going on, and on the backside of that, as a student, it would be hard to focus on learning with this going on. It would be really hard for me to effectively teach the student responsible. I thought that it was unprofessional of her to target a student without proof that he did anything. That's just human nature to say, oh yeah, I think it's so-and-so, but as a professional, we can't do that. And I would really reconsider if teaching high school is for me. The unresolved issue. Number 1, Ms. Walker's refusal to implement new and different teaching strategies. If no consequences are given, students will think that this behavior is okay and it will probably continue. And then a couple of questions. How will this incident affect Ms. Walker as well as her other students? Will they lose respect for her? Will she lose effectiveness as a teacher once this has all been brought to a close? Category 5, demonstrating a sense of integrity and ethical behavior. I, as Dr. Forbes, demonstrated integrity by first realizing that this matter was serious. I could have tried to keep it quiet since it's an affluent neighborhood, but instead I knew I needed to get to the bottom of it. I kept Miss Walker informed of the decision-making process and acted swiftly about the matter, and I was honest with parents when they were called into the meeting of what happened and what the consequences were going to be. When treating people with fairly and with dignity and respect, I didn't accuse any students. I interviewed them all and treated them fairly throughout the process. I could have blamed Miss Walker about that this was her fault about the teaching because she chose not to implement the new teaching strategies. However, I did not do that, and I treated her with dignity. And since she's still having trouble in class, I assigned Miss Walker a mentor. This will help her get through the emotional time, as well as hopefully teach her some new strategies. And then finally, demonstrate a personal and professional code of ethics. By assigning a consequence, I showed that this type of behavior will not be tolerated. And by supporting Miss Walker, I showed that I stand up for and help my teachers. And finally, by teaching students appropriate technology use, I am supporting all students in learning. Thank you for listening to this presentation.